Yep,
Hi,
I'm here.
hi mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad.
Cool. Let me just quickly give an introduction. Today is our WordPress Meetup, the 58th time. We actually invite Shaan from Singapore to talk about the on-page SEO checklist. A little bit background about Shaan. He run a agency, WordPress design agency. I think you do digital marketing as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Web
Okay,
design development.
awesome. And he's actually a co-organizer of the WordPress Singapore Meetup and the webcam as well. And he has been doing a lot of sharing in Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia, as well as Hong Kong as well. Yeah. And I met him in Singapore webcam, which I was doing a little bit sharing. I think it's about SEO as well.
It was.
Back in 2 years ago, which I hope we could have the meetup or the webcam in the coming year. It has been too long, yeah. So let me give you the host so you can get started. And the video, the meetup, we actually do the recording for today because a lot of people, they might be in work. So we do have the replay for them later on. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, that's all good from my side, mate.
Cool,
Okay, well, let me just get my Keynote open.
cool. Is that your home or your office?
Yeah, home office, so just hanging
Right,
out at
because
the
I
moment.
saw your guitar back there.
Yeah. There's a present to myself.
Excellent.
All right, let me open this up. You guys can all see that.
Yep.
Cool. So look, it's not specifically WordPress related, but
Yep.
obviously, if you run a WordPress website, SEO is something that you need to kind of go through. So what
Yep.
we've done is we'll put this together. I gave this talk at the Singapore meetup, I think last month. We haven't run one for a couple of months because as it is, it's just hard getting people to organize to run these things. So we're a little bit late, and I think we'll probably pick it up again next year. But so we'll go through a few things today. Basically, it's more sort of top line, what you need to think about when doing SEO and the things that Google is looking for. So more of a checklist from your point of view to when you are building a site or when you are going through your own site, what things you should be thinking about to try and sort of dominate SEO. Um, so we'll run through this now. So there's a few key features to make a website work really well. Basically, you need to focus on high quality content, content that's actually written for people first. It's good to write content targeting keywords, but Google is basically smart enough now to understand that you should be writing content for people first. Your website now needs to be mobile friendly and be optimized for mobile. Make sure it's as fast as possible. Somewhat related to SEO, but core web vitals are very important now. So run your website through the core web vital test, the Google page speed, test it at web.dev, I think it is. And then also make sure that you are building out any links. So high ranking websites linking to your site, internal linking between your core pages. That's kind of the core of SEO things that you should be doing nowadays. So basically, you get all those three right, it sets you in a good place for SEO dominance. But you also need to account for a few of the other little bits and pieces and set up tips and tricks that we will kind of run through today for you as well. So I will have a quick introduction about what on-page SEO is, why it's important, why you should go through a bit of an on-page SEO audit, a few ways to make your website pages easier to read, and then a few tips on what you can do to increase your on-page SEO. And we'll run through a few of those, bit of a summary, we'll have some questions and go from there. So what is on-page SEO? It's essentially the search engine optimization of core elements that are on your page structure. So your URL, your page titles, your headings, your internal links, any meta descriptions, and any images. So you may have like the world's best article is 5,000 words long. You're really discussing the benefits to your clients or to your customers. But if the title and headings are incorrect, your page title, is terrible, you have no images, it's not necessarily going to rank very well. No one will get to see it. And also from a user point of view, because I think that's important as well, it needs to be broken down so it's easy for somebody reading your article to understand the content as well. So while it's good to get all this stuff right from a keyword SEO perspective, I think it's also very important to write it from a logical point of view that people are really getting a good benefit from whatever page or whatever article that you have. So on-page SEO is about providing search engines with a clear look at your content, so algorithms can tell what you have to offer and decide on its relevance. So why would you go about and why would you need an SEO audit? So basically, when you audit your page structure or your page content, you can identify any issues and missed opportunities for engagement. You can also look at increasing the ability of potential leads and algorithms to come through and look at your content. So you can basically break down, increase your click-through rates with clear titles that include keywords is a good kind of takeaway from this. So look at what titles you have and look at how engaging those are to your audience to encourage them to click through further and explore your content. How do you make your content easier to read? So like I mentioned before, basically headings and optimizing your content, so including your URL, will make it easier for people and computers to read and navigate. So when Google spiders your website and goes through and reads your website, it has a certain amount of time or a certain amount of I guess, time that it gives to every website. So if your website is full of errors, it's full of broken links, it's full of 301 redirects, it typically would mean that Google is kind of wasting its time searching through errors rather than searching through relevant content. So the less errors you have from a technical SEO point of view, the more chance Google has to kind of read through all of your content. So from a user point of view, breaking up your text with images and headlines is a good idea, a good way to kind of break up your articles and retain more of the information that you've provided. And, I stress there that it should be relevant images. We can all go to Unsplash, grab an image and chuck it on our article. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself, but how relevant is it to the point that you're trying to make? And how beneficial is it to the audience actually viewing that image? Because if we're talking about page speed, every image or every asset that you load to your page, especially if it's going to be a large image, is going to slow things down. So yeah, kind of use that as much as you can. Bots can also read your images, so Google Image will spider your images. When you include image alt text, the reason behind behind image alt tags is essentially for screen readers. So blind users will use a piece of software that tabs through basically every element on your site. So for accessibility, the idea is that you want to explain to a blind user what that image is about, and why it's beneficial, right? So if you're talking about search engine optimization, you might, describe your alt image, your alt tag of your image as, people searching through files, so it's somewhat relevant, somewhat related, but the alt tag for the actual image describes that there's two people looking through boxes of files together, so searching for something. So that's what they will get, and they'll obviously imagine that in their mind, what that image is. So while that's the primary use of alt tags, it's also used a little bit by Google for SEO. So it needs to be a short description of the image, and also good for it to contain one keyword relevant to your article as well, so it backs that up. What do we need to do to increase your on-page SEO? So we'll walk through a few steps now, and we'll provide a bit of a checklist of what to look out for in each of the core elements of on-page SEO. So it'll allow you to basically go through and find the right solutions for your website. So every page will be unique and have a different focus and require a different balance of tweaks, depending on the original page setup and the current templates that you have available. So in terms of keyword research, we could probably do a whole talk on this on itself, but as basically it breaks down to your pages being optimized for certain keywords. Now, you can start by looking at what questions your target audience are searching for, and there's a lot of tools that you can use. I mean, you can just essentially type your questions into Google and see how you're appearing. You can use things like the suggested searches as well. There's a lot that can be done about keyword research. But what questions is your target audience searching for? What keywords is your target audience using the most in their searches? And then how does your content relate to that? So what problem does your content solve related to those keywords? So like I said, there's multiple tools that you can use, but essentially that's what you need to break down. So let's say you've got 10 pages on your website. You kind of want to target one keyword for one page. You don't want to target everything on your homepage. You do have, other content that you need to be getting your traffic to. And if you have a good user flow on your website, them coming into a service page or then coming into a blog article shouldn't mean that they're missing out on an opportunity to see what you guys do from a business point of view. So what questions are your target audience searching for, and what keywords are they using in those searches? And then what big problem does your content help solve? So why are you the expert on this area? And that's where you need to sort of work backwards from in terms of keyword research. From page titles, now typically in a WordPress website, your page title is going to be your H1 tag. It doesn't always necessarily have to be that way. It depends on how your website's set up in terms of what development you've done. But from an SEO perspective, a good page title is basically informative. So what is good? What is the reader going to find out by reading through this? It directly relates to your content, right? So if you've got web design as a page title, don't talk about development necessarily. If you're talking about SEO, then don't talk about content. So really kind of structure that down. What problem does it solve to the audience? And it's well written and basically tells a reader and Google what to expect from your website. So page title is important on your actual page itself, but it's also important in your meta tags. So make sure that it's relevant and clear about the message that you're sending. It's important to help basically the reader and bots understand what you're offering on each of these pages and why you were the best option to solve the problem for the potential client. So when updating or creating your web page titles, ensure they're attention-grabbing, short and informative, unique, well-written, and written for people first. I kind of can't stress that last one enough. We've all been to sites that have been stuffed with keywords that don't really make much sense when you read them. So just make sure that you're writing for people first, and your SEO optimization is part of that. But yeah, write for people first. Your URL optimization as well. So basically your URL is important. It should be as short as possible. Needs to be simple and friendly and easy to understand, and encourage people to click through to that as well. So make sure it's friendly, it's consistent, and punctuated correctly as well. So punctuation is a bit hard in a new URL, but there are some probably words that you can remove. You can remove the, you can remove and a few of those other words to make it a little bit shorter, but still make sure that it makes sense if someone was to read it out. and understand what it is. Don't just stuff 3 keywords in there into your URL and hope that people will understand it. Your heading optimization. Now, a lot of people in the WordPress world don't actually use headers when writing their content. They will use like the bold tag. I had a couple of clients wondering why their copy looked really weird. The sizes were smaller, it wasn't the right color as per the branding guidelines. And basically they were just using bold text, which is a bit of a hangover from Microsoft Word and those other, tools. So your H1 header is basically going to be your page title for most cases, depending on your development, right? So try and make it as close to your keyword search query as you can. So therefore, Google's saying the most important tag on your website, which is your H1 tag, your URL, and then your actual page title, are all closely aligned together. Now, if you have a long tail keyword, something that's a bit more unique, then that's more beneficial than just something like web design, which is going to be a hot topic that you're going to be competing with a lot of people on it. So basically the same as before, right? The same as your page title and your heading. So make sure it's relevant to your users' content. So break down a long article into heading 1s, heading 2s, heading 3s, heading 4s. I saw something recently about Google not necessarily worrying if you've got multiple H1s on the site. I think they're smart enough to understand that, but don't bank on that. I just saw something tweeted about that recently from Google, but essentially structure it as your heading 1 should be your most important tag, then heading 2, heading 3 underneath that, and heading 4, heading 5, 6. You probably don't need to worry about that unless you've got a very, very long article. But yeah, make sure it's relevant to your content. It's explaining the content that's coming below it. It's short and sweet, and it targets your users' needs and target keywords as well. Yeah, so aim to make sense and convey a message in the simplest way possible. Meta descriptions, now they're not used necessarily for ranking, but they are important to give a brief summary of what the page, business, post is about, as well as providing a reason to click through and visit that website. So your meta description can be changed in most SEO software, SEO Press, Rank Math, or Yoast. And basically, it needs to be an accurate content summary. I think roughly you have about 155 characters, but it depends. It's actually a pixel width now. So roughly about that 150 characters content summary. Needs to be unique to every page. There's no point copy and pasting the same meta description on the page. It's not going to tell the user what this page is about because the other page is about the same thing. It is optimized with 1 or 2 of your keywords that people are searching for, and it explains exactly what the user is going to get. And if possible, to include a little bit of call to action or a reason for somebody to click through and read that content. Internal links is something that people don't really do a lot of, and it's really important to spread the link juice between all of your sites. Also important to have an external link on some of your content as well, so you're not just kind of keeping everything within your walled garden. You're not the authority on every single thing, so linking out to kind of 1 external link per blog post is something we typically would like to use, but basically have links to relevant content leading back to your main pages. So if you're talking about something in a web design, a blog, which is about your web design process or your WordPress development process, or if you're talking about gardening, right, and you've got a gardening service, then link back to that service page where you can. Don't have like 50 links back to it, but have a couple of links from your secondary pages back to your core main service pages. If you're talking about who you are, then link back to your about page. Talking about your team, you can link back to those about pages and things as well. So when you're looking at your internal links, make sure that you check for any broken links. And that can come down to 301 redirects as well. If you have page links on your website that link to a 301 redirect, it's good to actually go in and use something like Better Search Replace as a WordPress free plugin, which allows you to, use an old URL, put in the new URL, and just change everything on the database rather than keeping broken links or 301 redirects in terms of internal links. So a good way to do that. Direct link to orphan pages. So if you have a page that's not in your navigation, then make sure that that page is linked somewhere. You don't just want a random page sitting on your website that's indexable but has no authority to it. So if you do have pages not on your navigation, if you have, let's say you run a web design business and you have a WordPress hosting page, but it's not necessarily on your navigation because it's like a secondary service. On your design page, on your development page, maybe on your maintenance page, you want to be linking out to that website hosting page to give that a little bit of credibility as well. Link to your main pages first, so your main core, home page, about page, services page, contact page, and make sure they're relevant as well. Use your clear anchor text, so what the text is that people are going to be click on, and then space them out as well. Don't have 10 links in your first paragraph and the first 10 words. Link them out throughout the article and where they're relevant to people as well. Image optimization. Now we could probably do a whole talk on this itself as well, but in terms of alt text, make it detailed but brief and optimize for your keywords as well. So while it's for screen readers, it gives you an opportunity to put some keywords into that alt text description of your image. Obviously, from a technical point of view, make sure it's as small as possible, retaining the the highest quality image that you can get. And you can put images through Tiny PNG, Squish, and a couple other different apps as well to get those down. Or you can use Short Pixel, Imagify, EWWW. There's a couple other plugins which allows you to shrink your file size of your images as well. From an SEO perspective, just make sure that your old text describes what's on the image and then it includes a keyword or two. Right, so basically from a summary point of view, we have this checklist to kind of go through, right? Optimize your page structure. We've got a few points to provide more proof of your page. And Google and other search engines will use these ranking factors to promote your pages higher in the SERP list, right? Which obviously allows more opportunities for click-throughs to your site, and then more clicks obviously will relate to more business as well. So a lot of these core elements are aimed at bots, but I think it's very important to stress that we still need to make sure that our content is easy to read for the user, because at the end of the day, Google's not buying your services, but a person will be. So make sure that everyone reading the page can see the value in your work. So once you perfect that, you can use the strategies to create templates, either for yourself or for your team to reduce workload while ensuring those results flow through as well. So for your website to rank well, it takes quite a few elements on your site to be done correctly. So make sure that as much as you can, you kind of gear that towards SEO. So, with a lot of industries, competition is very tight. And if your competitors are not doing it, it gives you an opportunity to look and focus on these 1 to 5% items to lift your website above the rest. And also run your SEO crawlers through the website. So you can use Ahrefs, you can use SEMrush, you can use Moz, and a few others. There's lots of SEO tools that will give you an SEO breakdown. You can use something like Screaming Frog as well to run through. I mean, even some of the SEO plugins will give you a bit of an analysis of what your page is like as well. All right. I ran through that kind of quickly, I think, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to kind of answer as much as I can.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. If you guys has any question, please leave it in the chat, or you can unmute to say your question. So I actually saw some of the question because SEO is also one of my favorite topics. So you have mentioned that high quality content is actually very important, especially Google keep updating, particular this month. I think they start roll out a few days ago, the November.
Thursday.
Yeah. They talk about a lot about the quality, like the EAT, the expert, trustworthy, and then the authority as well. So do you reckon the AI writing tools could actually assist in the area on the SEO part of it?
In my experience, not really. When I've run through, so we've SEO Spider is one we've used, or Spider SEO, we've used that. We've used a couple others.
Right.
Typically, the content that it spat out hasn't been very good. I mean, it's probably better than no content, but we're finding the best results now in the sort of 2,000 to 5,000 word.
Right.
That's where we're finding the best success. So kind of being the ultimate authority on something. So a 600 word blog is not really getting much traction, whereas, 2,000 words with, 10 different headlines and 4 images, 10 internal links, that's probably more beneficial. Some of the AI tools, again, it's as good as the content that you put into it. You're kind of putting that much content into it.
Yeah.
It'd be easier just to write that yourself.
Sure. So, and you also mentioned about the Core Web Vital, which I think PageSpeed Insight changed the layout as well. So they're putting more effort in that aspect. So for the Web Vital, how do you actually optimize? Do you use WordPress, use the blog editor, or use Page Builder, or any plugin you use?
Yeah, look, it's tricky, right? So
Yeah.
they have changed. I think they've moved PageSpeed Insights down to that web.dev
Yeah.
tool now, which is slightly different.
Yeah.
GT Metrics is obviously a good one as well,
Yeah.
which uses the same. But it can be quite tricky because, especially from my point of view, running a web design agency, while it's important for me for it to being fast, I don't want a 50 kilobyte image being loaded because it's not going to show the quality of the work that I do. So it's a fine line between showing quality work, let's say a video which is going to be 10 megabytes,
Yeah.
to having that nice and fast for mobile especially. So we use WP Rocket for a lot of our optimization, and I've just started to use Asset. What is it? I think Asset
Cleanup.
Yeah, Asset Cleanup Pro,
Yeah.
that one,
Yeah.
which allows us to do. So if you've got a WordPress website that's running 5 point whatever, typically it loads a lot of assets that you don't need on every single page. So if you've got WooCommerce installed, it'll load WooCommerce blocks on every single page. You don't necessarily need that on every page.
Yeah.
It'll load the Gutenberg blocks on every page as well. So let's say you've built your page with Elementor, but you've built your blogs with blocks. You probably only need to limit that to your single page template. So you can remove assets like that. Obviously, lazy loading can be good. There's no kind of hard and fast rule to make sure that it all works. You kind of have to test around and see, because the more optimization, the kind of locking down of your site, harder it can be to actually update, because if you've got a very hard cache on there, that you find that Google might not actually be seeing your new content as frequently as it can be. So yeah, it's a bit of a fine line. Essentially, the big ticket items that we've done with Core Web Vitals are loading things like Google Fonts natively, so moving them onto your server, local loading of things like Google Analytics, so plugins can basically cache that, and loading as much as you can from your own server, and then delaying those loading until later in the page.
Yeah.
So we had a meetup on Core Web Vitals. Actually, had 2 or 3 of them now in the Singapore group, and I was trying to Edmund, who works for XWP. What he does is he basically takes like an HTML version of the homepage, saves that on his server, and then basically looks through kind of line by line, removes items, and does that in a static HTML way, and then plugins that can help him achieve that result later down the track. But yeah, something like WP Rocket will get you a long way there, but there is still quite a bit of manual kind of dev work that needs to be done to get a good Core Web Vitals score, especially if you do have things like video and other assets and animations that need to be loaded in.
Yeah. Actually, I found that if I build a site using Animator, of course, this is really easy and quick to build. But probably I can only got the 60 or 70 the page speed score. But if I use the block editor, normally I got like 80% without using any plugin or CDN or delay or defer or pillow anything at all. So it really depends on how you structure it. But it actually spent a lot more time to do the design and things like that if using block editor though. So it got the pros and cons.
No, exactly right. I started using Oxygen just recently, which Oxygen editor, it's a little bit like Webflow if you've kind of used that. It's also a little bit like developing websites from a long time ago, but with a page builder asset to it. It's very light in terms of the code that it produces. Editor itself can be a little bit confusing. It's not the best UI. I ended up giving up on it just because I needed to build something quickly rather than learning a new tool. But the code that it produced was good quality code. I just had to get my head around a new tool. I'm getting old now, so learning new things is it's getting tough.
I like to get used to the system. I know where the settings and the buttons are. I don't need to know a new thing.
So using something like the block editor is fantastic. We've done a few websites in it recently where we've used like Cadence or we've used Blocksy. Blocksy is a fantastic free theme, which has a good few free plugins as well that allows you to do a lot with it. There's also Genesis custom blocks or Genesis blocks. Their pro version allows you to create your own blocks really easily in PHP and pull things like ACF into your blocks as well really easily without having to worry about JavaScript. And it actually edits natively in the block editor rather than the old ACF way, which used to make you edit and kind of in the sidebar area, which was all a little bit weird.
That's cool. I actually use a lot of the WordPress. I use a January block as well. I tried Cadence and Blocksy, but I didn't really like the look and feel. Maybe I got used to too much on the WordPress, so I stick with that, and the speed is okay as well.
Yeah, I think things like Elementor, we use Beaver Builder and a little bit of Elementor. Beaver Builder is probably a little bit lighter in terms of feature, so we find it's okay. But I guess it's that trade-off, right? My previous website I built in like 90% PHP, and WordPress is the CMS, but it really controls nothing. If I want to edit my website, I have to dig into a PHP builder. I don't even know why I have a WordPress website on my current site. It's basically just PHP. So, you know, I'm now converting that to something else, but it's that trade-off between how easily do you want to admin your website and you know, generate and create more content, how fast it will be, because building something in Oxygen is probably going to take you a little bit longer, but you'll achieve a faster speed. So you sort of got to weigh that up. And using something like Elementor, you'll be able to get a lot better effects and a lot better animations and control out of the box than using something like Gutenberg, but it's going to be a bit slower. So you kind of have to weigh it all up.
Yeah, you can get more customer and produce the website faster.
Well,
So,
exactly right. You just knock them all through, right, and worry about
yeah,
things for later. We
yeah,
actually launched a Core Web Vital audit product a few
right,
months ago, which few people have been through, and it's always interesting, especially when someone has developed a site using
right,
something from Theme Forest, how poorly optimized it is.
right. They're probably using Visual Composer, the WP
Yeah, Visual
Bakery.
Composer
Yeah,
or something like Flatsum.
yeah.
Like, yeah, a
The
client.
UX builder, they call it. Yeah,
Yeah, so a client didn't go with our services recently, went with somebody else, and I had a look at their website just the other day,
right.
and the homepage was 18 megabytes.
They put a video there or something.
No, just images.
Wow. They
Yeah, so
must have a gallery or something.
yeah, it was using Flatsum, and I thought of my internet was bad, but no.
Right. So I actually have a few more questions. If you guys have questions, please leave in the chat or unmute. So because for SEO, we got, I know today we actually talked about the on-page SEO, but you mentioned a little bit about the link building. So what is actually your link building strategy? Do you actually have a list of link you can do the guest posting, or you actually do the outreach every single time for different clients?
Yeah, it's a tough one. We used to use a service a lot called Source Bottle.
Right.
Source Bottle, and there's another one as well, which I can't remember the name of now. But essentially, what you do is you put in your interests into this website, and it's basically people from the press or people from other industries looking for experts on certain
Right.
topics.
Right.
So they say, we're looking for someone to talk about SEO in this news article or in this other article.
Is
I'm
it like
writing.
Hello Reporter, that kind of site?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Right,
And so we use that a lot. It's been less effective in the last 3 or 4 months.
right.
We use that a lot. Typically, we do have a company that we use for backlinks
Mm-hmm.
to build the kind of directory-based ones. They're a little bit spammy,
Yeah,
but not totally,
sure, sure. It's
everywhere.
better than nothing.
But it's better than nothing, and they do a lot of grunt work for a
Mm.
small amount, especially if you're launching a new site. You
Yeah,
know, 10 to 20 to 50 semi-decent backlinks can
sure.
really help, and it's cost effective as well.
Yeah,
In terms of good quality ones, yeah, it's just manual outreach that we do
right,
outside of the normal sort of directory type listings.
right. So as you mentioned about the lead site, actually you will do the directory backlink. So in your experience, how long does it take for a new site to start to rank in Google? How many months perhaps?
You can get it listed pretty quickly, right? Using the
Yeah,
search console and things, but for actually getting to ranking for your keywords,
yeah,
I would say 2 to 3 months before you actually see what I've done right and what I've done
right.
wrong.
That's pretty quick. I mean, 2 to 3 months. I
Well,
suppose it depends on the keyword competitiveness as well.
I'm not talking about necessarily page one here, but you can
Yeah,
start tracking it and see, okay, I'm doing okay. It needs more work around this.
sure, sure. So you gradually can see the trend which is rising.
Yeah, exactly. So you
Yeah.
can put more juice into the fire. And something that works really well for us, like the backlink building, is if we're doing a new article, let's say
Hmm.
we've listed a new blog article or something like that, we'll pump a little bit of money into Facebook and spend
Mm.
maybe $50 to $100 a week to get traffic
Right.
across to this blog topic as well, because Google likes traffic. Doesn't really matter where it's come from, but if
Mm.
you've got a brand new article and you might send it out to your email database, which is what,
Yeah.
500 people or something,
Yeah.
people of those will read it. But if you've got 300 other people that have read it through
Mm.
paid links, that can really help rank something quickly as well. And
Yeah. That's
pay to
cool.
play, right? It seems to be
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So I got another question. Like for the image SEO, you have mentioned that you use alt tags, you put some keywords in the sentence or things like that. Do you also do like for image, you can actually put like title and you can put the description as well. Does it matter, or is equally?
Depends on your theme. So if your theme will spit out your title,
Yeah.
actually, well, your title is generally, as you hover over an image, your title will come up in that browser bar, depending on your theme.
Yeah.
It's not typically, your description is not typically used for SEO. Your summary is not used for SEO either, just the alt tags. It's important to have from a site structure point of view, and so that you understand your own images. But I would focus basically on your title just to make sure that that's okay, and your alt tags, and to a lesser extent, sorry, the actual file name of your image as well. Don't just chuck up Shutterstock 385 249.
Yeah.
And make sure that's like a JPEG rather than a PNG.
Yeah, the stock photo is actually my next question, because a lot of company, they might not have the budget or resources to take a really nice pictures and need to get the stock photo. So if they're doing stock photo, I suppose because it's the same images, right? So Google actually recognized it's the same images, so it won't show a duplicate result in the image section of the Google. So if that is the case, how could we actually do the image SEO?
Yeah, that's tough. So the title is important from that. From an SEO point of view, on your website, you don't really want so WordPress itself creates pages for every image that you upload by default. Yeah. So you'll have 2 or 3 links for each image. One will be the actual URL of the image, and then one will be the sort of page view, and it basically spits out the image on a page. You definitely don't want that to rank because there's no value in that. So by default, I think Yoast and most SEO plugins turn it off by default now.
Right.
But you definitely don't want that to rank. So you want your actual image itself to rank on Google Images. And the things is basically relevancy to your content. So making sure that it's on a page that's relevant to your keyword. Your keyword is actually in your alt tag, and it's supported by a file name as well.
Yeah. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Package that as much as you can rather than just the Unsplash one that you may be finding. And in terms of images, like you can jump on, was it AppSumo or something? I think Deposit Photos, they have, it's like $40 for 100 photos.
Right.
And I think you can just batch those. So every few years I jump on and buy, $500 worth of images for like, $30, $40. And while they're not as good as something like Shutterstock or Adobe Images, or even Stocksy, it gives you a little bit of a differentiator. Those images. And sometimes you may find an image on one of these other sites that's good, but it's kind of hidden in Deposit Photos. So you can kind of find it and not pay a premium for it. There's also a lot of other things, outside of Stocksy that may work as well. There's lots of sort of vector images that you can do and create as well, because your images have to be relevant. There was a good blog that I saw recently, a design from what's that? Help Scout. The Help Scout blog. Right. Actually really good. The way they use their images and things. So what to check out. The Help Scout and the Zendesk blog are both quite good. Cool.
I got a few more questions. I actually wrote down too many questions because I really like to do SEO stuff. You mentioned that John Miller, I think you said Google, someone from Google talked about the H1. I suppose that you actually John Miller.
Yeah, that's right.
He actually talks about it's okay to use multiple H1. Which I don't actually believe that.
I got a little bit on the fence on that as well.
Yeah, I will still keep my best practice, which is using only one H1. But the other thing Google changes nowadays, if we use blog title or page title, 87% of the time Google actually change our title.
I know.
and meta description perhaps. Yeah. In that case, how would you tackle that to ensure Google show the title you want? Because I've run a few tests that they actually changed my title, and the way they change it is not as good as my original one. So I get less traffic, and the CTR is actually pretty low.
I mean, ultimately, you have no control over it.
Yeah.
The only control you do have is by writing something. So by at least customizing it, it gives Google the idea that, this is what I want
Mm-hmm.
as my description, and you can just hope that they accept that as the best description, rather than them just grabbing the first, 25 words of your
Right.
page, ending with a dot, dot, dot. So at least write your meta descriptions, because I guarantee you, if you check out 10 of your competitors,
Mm-hmm.
only one or two of them are actually doing this, because it's time sensitive and time intensive to do
Yeah.
a lot of this work. So your competitors won't be doing this. So by you at least going through and doing your on-page SEO and reviewing it, it's going to be better. But no, there's no real way to guarantee
Yeah.
that Google will accept what
Yeah.
you.
Is a pain. Yeah, actually, I've run a few tests that I update the title a little bit and the meta description a little bit, like 10 pages, and 2 pages actually show what I want it to show, but 80% of the time it still change what I originally wanted. So for the content length and internal link and the backlink, what is your best suggestion for for a page, which you mentioned should be like 2,000 to like 5,000 words, right? And how many internal link or backlink normally do you do per page?
So we will use one external link per
Yeah,
article.
right,
We'll typically have between 5 and 10 on an article length that's around 2,000 words. We'll have 5 or 10 internal links,
right.
making sure they're relevant. Obviously, I'm not just going to stuff a link in there and then backlinks, kind of as many as we can, and then we'll throw about $100 traffic in the first week as well.
Mm, mm. Sure, sure, that's great. Um, about the title, do you have any best approach to have a good CTR title so people can actually click?
Yeah, it's more relevant to the problem that you're solving for your user. So um, it can be really tricky to write these for SEO as well as for your audience, right? A lot of people like to say, from a first person's perspective, I do this, I do this, I do that, I do this. These are all our services. Our business, kind of, you're pushing it out in
Mm-hmm,
terms that. We tend to look at it from the other perspective, that it's more of a solution. So what problem are you solving for the user?
mm-hmm,
Because at the end of the day, they've probably got 5 to 10 other pages open, and if you're looking for a web designer,
mm-hmm,
everyone's saying the page title is web design, web design, web design, right? Which says nothing at the end of the day. What
right.
problem are you solving for your target audience?
Mm,
Kind of look at it from that perspective. Once
yeah,
you have the problem, or once you have the solution to the problem, then look at optimizing that in terms of brevity, making sure that it's straight and succinct and straight to the point.
mm.
But yeah, from a solution point of view.
Yeah, that's very important that we're actually writing for human, not for Google, like stuffing the keyword. So we actually have a question from Adin. Could you unmute and ask about your question?
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I can hear. Yeah.
Yo, thank you for making this session. Like, it's really informative. I appreciate all the knowledge that you are giving us here. So, yeah, I'm a software engineer myself, but like more on the back end side. So, not experienced in WordPress and stuff like that.
Yep.
But it's cool, like to see you guys giving us all this knowledge. But yeah, for me, I'm like interested in a personal blog. Like I want to just make a personal blog for myself, right? So normally personal blogs is like your name, like
Yep.
Alex Van, for example, or like Milan something, right? So I asked earlier in the chat, is it okay to use dashes? Like for example, Alex-vid or
Domain name.
Yeah, a domain name and also the web pages inside your
Yes,
blog.
your URL structure should contain dashes rather than underscores, just because it's easier to understand. Your domain name, it should be less from an SEO perspective, but more from a how do I tell somebody what my domain name is if I catch up with them. Is it easier just to say johndoe.com, or is it easier to john-doe? You know, if you're saying that on the phone or if you're telling someone in person, you want to make that as easy as possible. That's kind of the best idea. From an SEO perspective, you know, it doesn't really matter too much if there's a dash or not a dash in there. But I would tend to go with without a dash and then a different TLD. So maybe a .co if the .com isn't available.
I see.
Rather than dashes.
Thank you. Yeah, based on like Ivan. Sorry, I don't know the pronunciation of the name. But based on the conversation, there are many like tools, if I may say, or plugins that I think have been said here. Like you use this for such kind of a task. For example, like Bloxy. Like I never use it. I don't know about it, but when I search it right now, it's like, okay, like it's kind of builder or something like that, right? So coming back to my main interest, which is like a personal blog. I'm not doing this for business or anything. So if you just want to talk about set of tools, like, okay, I want to make a personal blog just for my technical stuff and like my life here and stuff like that. Would you recommend the minimum set that can someone use for SEO or like for just making it easier? I'm not interested in fancy website or anything, just a simple blog. So would you recommend any set of, let's say, plugins or tools or stuff like that?
I suppose, correct me if you're using something else, Shaan. So basically you have mentioned about WP Rocket. So I will put that in place for the performance. And I actually use RedMath inside of the Yoast, because RedMath, even the free version, it support the image SEO, which it automatically fill up the alt tags, which is easier. RedMath for the SEO. And I also will use something called insert header and footer, which you can put the tracking code for Google Analytics or Search Console and stuff like that. And I like to use a theme called GeneratePress. So that's about the plugin for minimum requirement I need to use without, you know, making a fancy layout. If you need for like a corporate look and feel, stuff like that, I'm probably going to install the animator as well to make it easier to do the design and stuff. Yeah. So what will you use, Shaan?
Yeah, so we have a bit of a different stack, but if it's just a personal site, I recently, well, last year, I redid my personal site just using Genesis. So Genesis is now free. They come with a bunch of templates that work quite well. It all works with the block editor. Very similar to GeneratePress, so that's a good option. If you're looking for something that's a little bit maybe fancier, gives you a few more effects, something like Cadence, something like Bloxy is a good way to get started, which gives you a few templates out of the box that you might like. Also, coming in WordPress 5.9 is going to be something called a pattern gallery. And the new WordPress theme 2022 or 2023, I can't remember what it's called, actually allows full front-end editing of the website in WordPress. So in the block editor itself. So you've got your navigation now, you've got all your sidebars, and everything will be all edited within the same editor. And it would allow patterns so you can have, you know, you can change your header across things very easily. So you just go down the drop down and have a look at choosing whatever that may be. But from a minimum product, kind of what we would do from a business point of view is basically we use the Beaver Builder theme, we use Beaver Builder, we use SEO Press, but again, they're all very similar. We'll use a couple of other plugins like the Asset Cleanup Pro. We will use WP Rocket. We do things like run disable comments to turn off the comments on all of our sites. There's a few other things like that as well that we do.
Interesting.
We use something like ACF, which is called Advanced Custom Fields. You probably wouldn't use that, but if you want to add additional custom fields to your content that's not available, you can do that as well. But yeah, there's lots of different options out there, which is a good and a bad thing with WordPress.
Thank you. Like, you know, the main interest is like always the SEO, and a long time ago, I don't remember, like 5 years, 7 years ago, I kind of attended a class or like a course, and the guy just said like, okay, with this set of tools, like just install this, pass the configuration into another website, and things gonna be fine. And yeah, it worked pretty well for me, like, but it was a long time ago. So with the same mentality that I just ask you the same questions here, but thank you so much.
Yeah, cool. I mean, the very basic way to get started would just go to WordPress.com. And the WordPress.com is obviously a hosted version of WordPress. You can get your own domain name added to that very easily. You get a little bit of a different experience on WordPress.com. You can sign up, I think, for the business plan, which allows you to change themes, install plugins. So from a very basic point of view, you can get that done. Being a software engineer, I think you'll probably be okay with setting up your own hosting, installing a PHP.
Yeah, that's totally fine, you know, but like it always comes, what can boost your WordPress after you set the contents. And
yeah, I think basically you get the minimum viable product, which is a nice fast theme. And you know, there's probably lots of blogs around the fastest theme, but using the blog editor is probably going to be your fastest bet. And then containing the amount of assets that you have loaded, and then look, an SEO plugin is not going to get you ranking. It's just going to make it easier for you to control and analyze the content on your website.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was helpful.
Cool. So I think it's about time. If you guys still have any question, please feel free to contact Shaan, which the screen should show his Facebook, IG, and website as well. So once again, thanks again for your time and your sharing. So I'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cool. Catch you later.